Hello, hello, hello. How is everybody doing tonight? Everybody ready for this weather to take a turn? Everybody ready for it to get warm a little tomorrow? I think we're supposed to have a little bit of a break in this. Hi, CH Hackett and Bree Dub. How are you doing tonight? Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. Hi, Nut Susanna. How are you doing? Good? Good. Glad to hear it. Wonderful. Grand. Fantastic. Everyone knows the deal. We'll give it till around 7:05 for people to get here. Then we'll start picking characters before we get started with the story. So if you're interested in being part of the story, type !pick me in the chat right now, and that'll get you entered in the drawing. So when I draw for people to pick our characters, you'll have a chance to win. If you're tuning in for the first time, don't forget to hit the follow button for me. Show me some love. Yeah, just like CH Hackett did. Only if you want to be a part of the story, though, or a chance to be a part of the story. Meantime, while I'm doing that, I'll run through a couple things. It looks like I had a new follow from Red Fours and Big C Lady. Thank you for following if you're here. If you're not, sorry I missed it when you did it, or maybe you did it when I wasn't live. Seems like it's possible too. There you go. Anyone just tuning in, we're going to get started around 7:05. So if you want a chance to be a part of the story, type !pick me, just like those three people did just now, for a chance to help choose our characters for tonight's story. Then, once we get all of our characters, we'll get right into the story. It's going to be a fun one tonight. If the title of the stream didn't give it away, I think we're going to take a trip to maybe Transylvania. Something a little different. Someplace we haven't been yet. Let's see. And one more minute, and then we're gonna start. It's not as cold in the library tonight as it has been a few nights before, so I think that that's a sign that the weather's finally breaking. I'm super excited about that. My dogs are super excited about that, I bet, because that means they might get to go outside and play. Without freezing their little paws and going. That's what they do when the weather's too cold. They lift their little paws up and pick me up. I can't do it. They're little wusses. All right, 7:05. anyone else wants a chance to be part of the story, make sure you type !, pick me. I am going to start choosing people to choose our characters. And I'm rolling. Alright, CH Hackett, I need a name for a male character. A boy character. Vernon. Alright, we got Vernon. And now, Breedub. I need a name for another male character. Ringo. We got a Ringo. Oh my. And if anyone else wants to enter, now's your chance. I'm going to roll again. Nut Susanna. Now I need a female character. Name for a female character. Zelda. You have no idea how many people mistakenly think that that is a male's name. And they should be ashamed of themselves. Solely talking about video game culture a little there. Yeah. And does it da-da-dum. We need one more character. Not Susanna. I need another female character. June. Alrighty. Well, that's going to do it for characters, I think. So, with that being said, we're going to move right into our story. If anyone's getting here late, we've already picked our characters, and we're just going to start with the story. There will be some more decisions a little bit later on. Today, we travel across the ocean to the continent of Europe, to a small region in the country of Romania, known to many as Transylvania. But before we start our story, we must travel back in time, thousands of years, to the Dark Ages. During this period in time, there was a great war raging within the lands of Transylvania between humans and vampires. Apparently they're like cats. I'm sure you've heard the various stories related to this time. The legends of Van Helsing, Dracula, and the likes. Well, I can't speak to the truth of those stories, but what I can say is that the war was real, and that the vampires were on the losing end. When the war had finally wound down and was coming to an end, humans thought that vampires were extinct, and they might as well have been. But one lived through the war. Vernon, the last of his kind. Now that we know the history, we can fast forward back to present-day Transylvania, where Vernon still lives. Yep, that's right. Vampires lived for thousands and thousands of years. They're not immortal like the other stories claim that they are. It's not true. But they do live a really, really long time, which is probably why it got confused. So, Vernon was a small child when the wars ended, and therefore he's still very young by vampire standards, thousands of years later. The first 1,000 years or so of his solitude in his hideaway weren't terrible. He spent his time traveling the world in search of an alternative to blood. You see, unlike his ancestors, he despised the taste. It was disgusting. And after 1,000 years or so, he finally discovered a combination of fruits, vegetables, herbs, plants that gave him a high enough iron and the other nutrients that he needed to live. And ever since then, he has been vegan. That's right, we've got a vegan vampire here. Vernon the vegan vampire. Yeah? So, this first 1,000 years when he was discovering this milkshake of sorts, not milk, but shake of sorts with all these plants, weren't too terrible. But as time went on, he found himself growing lonelier and lonelier. He started to wonder if humans even remembered the wars, if they would recognize him as a vampire. His fear of this started to wane as the generations of humans came and went. And he decided that he should practice hiding his fangs so that he could start to venture into a nearby village. He spent countless years in front of a mirror going, until he had perfected the art of hiding his fangs and being able to talk and look normal still. And with that power in hand, he started to venture into the nearby village. He would only go once every couple years at first, just to wander the streets and listen to gossip and test out his skills at hiding who he was. Then he started going a couple times a year, and now it was something that he did every weekend. He would wander into town just after the sun went down. And now, let's back up for a second. This town that he visits, it's very small, surrounded by mountains, right next to where his hideaway is. And it's very remote. The mountains have kept technology away. There's no cell phone towers, no cable internet. They do have satellite internet, but, I mean, if we're being honest, that's not even like real internet, so doesn't count. And Vernon was fine with this. He found modern technology to be obnoxious. It interfered with people having genuine relationships with one another, which is what he craved most. In this town, about 100 years ago, a small piano bar had been built, and this was his favorite spot to visit. Over the last couple years, he had gone there so frequently that he had come to be considered a regular. Everyone knew him by name, and many people there thought that they were his friends. There was John at the bar, who occasionally got him his drinks for free. Paul, who was a local real estate novelist, always trying to sell him some land. And then, of course, there was Davy, who rambled on about his years in the Navy. But those were just people he associated with. There were only two people that he really considered friends: Ringo and Zelda. Now, Ringo and Zelda were husband and wife. They had moved to the village to escape modern technology. Like them, they relished true relationships and conversation. He could talk to them about anything, until the wee hours of the morning before he'd have to go back home. Their conversations covered every topic imaginable, and he loved it. He liked to think that even if they knew what he really was, they'd still be his friends. But Vernon knew that the odds of that were slim in reality. At the end of the day, humans are always scared of monsters. One night, Vernon was enjoying a good conversation with Zelda about music when Ringo ran over to the table. He was clearly excited about something. He grabbed Zelda by the arm and exclaimed, "They just got a karaoke machine, and we're up next." Zelda laughed and followed him over to the karaoke machine. Vernon watched them perform some song that he wasn't super familiar with. It was somewhat new, and he didn't care for it much. It was enjoyable for him, though, to see his friends having so much fun. That brought him joy. They returned to the table after they were done with their song, and Zelda said, "So, Vernon, what song are we going to sing together? And I think I need your help. Do you guys think that Vernon seems like the kind of guy who is going to try and get out of singing or choose a song? So let me know if you think he should try to get out of singing or pick a song, and that'll decide which way we go with the story. If you click on the link in chat right there, that'll bring you through to the poll, and you can just vote. And once I get the votes in, I will continue on. In the meantime, I've got some things to run through here really quick. One Man KO, thank you for the follow. Oh, it's Judd, thank you for the follow. Wood CJ, H Yurden, and Manold Heel, thank you all for the follows. Now let's go see if the poll results are in. And the results are in. He should choose a song. He's not scared of singing. Of course he's not scared of singing. Why would he be? He's been around forever. So, what do we want to do? Vernon thought for a moment, and he replied, "How about Piano Man? That seems very fitting for this place." Ringo nodded, clearly in agreement, and Zelda rushed over to sign their names to the list. When she returned, they continued their previous conversation about music and waited for their names to be called. When their names were called, Vernon arose out of his chair and followed Zelda to the stage. He picked up the microphone and the music started to play. At first, he was uncomfortable with so many people looking at him. He hadn't been in this kind of situation in ever, really. But as he started to sing, before long he was belting it out. He had a good voice. The song wrapped up and they went back to their table laughing. And they decided that they needed to perform a song as a trio. So they chose a song, wrote their names down again, and waited to perform. Didn't take long and they were called up to sing their next song. This was the most fun that Vernon had had in literally thousands of years. He felt normal for a change. But this feeling came at a great cost. In his moment of bliss, his guard was down and his lips shifted, giving clear view of his fangs. There they are, hissing again. To anyone who would have been looking closely enough. He recovered quickly and readjusted. His eyes darted around the room, looking for someone who was terrified or ready to kill him. But there was nothing out of the ordinary. Perhaps it had gone unnoticed. They finished up that song, and it was time for Vernon to head back to his hideaway. He hugged his friends and thanked them for the wonderful night, and they set plans to meet again the following weekend. He headed out the door, down the alley, through the streets, to the edge of the village and the forest that hid his underground cave. He walked home at a brisk pace, ready to get some sleep. He entered through the tree trunk that he used to hide his doorway, making sure to pull it closed tightly behind him. And then he found his way to his bedroom and tucked in for a good day's rest. He awoke the following night, and for some reason, something felt amiss. He looked around his house, or his hideaway, I guess you would call it. Not really a house, since it's a cave. But he looked around and he noticed a few things out of place. He headed towards his door that led to the forest and noticed it was ajar. He specifically remembered making sure that door was closed tight the night before. And that was bad news. That meant that someone knew who he was, what he was. He headed to the village, but this time, when he arrived, he kept to the back alleys and shadows, like he used to do for thousands of years, hiding, not making any noise. He headed towards the bar, knowing he'd be able to hear gossip from the open windows. But to his dismay, there was no sound coming from the bar. He wandered the village some more, still sticking to the shadows, and then he noticed a commotion coming from the town hall. So he rushed in that direction. He climbed up on the dumpster next to the window and carefully slid the window open a tiny bit so that he could hear as he peered through. And at the podium was June, the mayor of the city. And, as Vernon had feared, she was talking about him. "I've always thought that there was something wrong about him. He has been here for as long as I can remember, and he doesn't look like he's aged a day. And last night, while he was singing karaoke, I saw his true form. He had fangs, like they described in the vampires of old, like Dracula." Vernon rolled his eyes at this. Dracula was a myth. The vampire from the stories was actually named Robert, but apparently that wasn't a unique enough name to make it into the history books. June continued on. "After he left, I followed him to his lair. It's a scary, hidden cave in the woods. It's where he probably takes people to drain them of their blood." This statement made Vernon's blood boil. He had never once hurt anybody from this village, or from anywhere for that matter. Never. Not even back when he was drinking blood. He listened for a bit longer as she rambled on, spewing hateful nonsense with no proof other than she had seen his teeth in his cave. Boy, this is quite a turn of events here. What do you guys think? Should he barge into the meeting, kick down the door, and say, "Listen up"? Or should he retreat to his cave and try to figure out his next move? Go ahead and vote on the poll for me. Once the votes are in, alrighty, votes are in, I think. And it looks like he's going to barge into the meeting. Oh boy, this will be interesting. How do we... Vernon had enough. He was tired of being in hiding and was tired of these false accusations. He barged through the door, which made a very loud noise and, in retrospect, a rather scary entrance. Probably not the best choice. But he moved forward anyways, straight up to the podium. June looked terrified, and he used that to his advantage. He walked right up to her and said, "Move, now." She listened. Vernon then proceeded to address the assembly. "I am not here to deny what June has claimed. I am indeed a vampire. I am the last of my kind, and I will no longer run and hide." There was, at this point, an audible gasp from the crowd. And a few people went so far as to get up and bolt for the door. To Vernon's surprise, before they could get out the door, Ringo stepped in front of it. And he loudly announced, "Nobody is going to leave until Vernon is done talking." And with that said, he gave Vernon a nod and a smile. This encouragement helped Vernon, and he continued on. "The legends of old are mostly true. My kind were terrible, and the war between humans and vampires was terrible as well. But I was a young child when the war ended. My parents had the foresight to hide me away in the woods, in the very cave where she saw me run. I vowed then to never make the same mistakes my ancestors had made. I spent 1,000 years perfecting a non-blood diet, and it is that diet to which I have adhered to this day. I used to stay in hiding, and I hated myself because I was lonely, but I slowly grew to come back into the village and enjoy the company of you all. The conversations They're what I live for. And not once have I ever thought of harming you. But apparently I was right to hide from humans, because the very people who claimed to have been my friends are now wanting me dead, aside from Ringo and Zelda, of course. They seem to be sticking by me. The people of the assembly seemed a bit off kilter from the speech, and Zelda used that momentum to voice her opinion, and she said, "He has never been anything but nice to every single one of us. So shame on you all for jumping to conclusions about him." Now, after that, the heads of the people in the assembly, who were on the verge of becoming an angry mob, began to drop in shame. They realized that Ringo and Zelda and Vernon were right, and that each one of them had nothing but good experiences with Vernon. The assembly that was on the verge of becoming a mob slowly disbanded. They apologized, some of them, other ones kind of just hung their head in shame and walked out the door until there was only Ringo, Zelda, Vernon, and June left. June walked up to the three friends and said, I'm truly sorry for what I did. I saw the teeth, remembered the legends, and jumped to some very harsh conclusions. You have been nothing but a good friend to most people in this village, and the way I acted was unforgivable. Vernon smiled, allowing his fangs to show this time. And he said, "Over my thousands of years, I have learned many things. Forgiveness is one of those things." And with that, June took her parting. And as she walked away, Ringo and Zelda smiled at Vernon. And they laughed a little about him showing his fangs to June. And then said, "How's about we go get some drinks, sing a couple more songs on that karaoke machine? I think we could all use to relax a bit after this night." And they lived sort of happily ever after, I think. Not really positive that's all there is to this story, but that's definitely all there is for now. Maybe Vernon will make an appearance again in the future. I don't know. I like his character, I think. And he lives for a long time, so it's hard to say if his story's over. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the story. Something a little different, a little fantasy. I think Monday night we might go with an animal story. I haven't decided yet. Well, I guess we'll decide that day. See how it goes. But thank you all for participating and for tuning in. I will catch you next time. Enjoy your weekend. Stay warm. And have a good night. Talk to you all later. Oh, let me make sure that I didn't miss anything else. I did not. Yes. Have a good night, everybody. Signing off.